I had been with Mia for 3 years, building what I thought was our future together. We had our routines, inside jokes, and plans that stretched years ahead. But lately something had shifted. Her college friends, the self-proclaimed squad, seemed to take priority in her life. Tonight was meant to be our anniversary celebration, a special dinner I had planned for weeks. When Mia called to cancel because her friend Jessica was having another crisis, something inside me broke. The argument that followed ended with words I will never forget. Looking me straight in the eyes, Mia said, "Love can wait, but friendship cannot. They will be here after you." If you have ever felt like someone's backup plan instead of their priority, hit that like button and subscribe. Let me know where you are watching from and stick around to see what happened when I finally stood up for myself. I am a 32-year-old software developer living in Seattle, where the tech industry thrives and the coffee shops never close. My life before Mia was comfortable but ordinary. I worked long hours coding for a mid-sized tech company, spent weekends hiking the nearby mountains, and occasionally met friends for beers and board games. Nothing exceptional, but I was content. That all changed at Jake's housewarming party 3 years ago. I almost did not go that night, exhausted from a week of debugging a particularly stubborn piece of code. But Jake insisted, promising it would be worth my while. He was right, though not in the way either of us expected. Mia stood by the window laughing at something on her phone. The soft lights caught in her dark hair, and when she looked up, her smile hit me with unexpected force. She was wearing a simple blue dress and looked completely out of place among the tech bros in hoodies and jeans. Later I learned she worked in marketing for a rival company and only came because her roommate knew Jake. Our conversation started awkwardly. I spilled my drink when she suddenly turned around, but instead of being annoyed, she laughed and helped me clean up. We talked for hours that night, long after most guests had left. She was 28, ambitious, with a sharp wit that kept me on my toes. By the end of the evening, I had her number and a promise to meet for coffee the following weekend. Our relationship progressed quickly after that. Coffee dates turned into dinner dates, which evolved into weekend trips exploring the Pacific Northwest. Within 6 months, we were practically inseparable. After a year, we decided to move in together, finding a cozy apartment with a view of the Space Needle that we could just barely afford. Life together was good. We established routines that complemented each other. I cooked breakfast while she made coffee. Weekends were for hiking when the weather permitted, or binge-watching shows when Seattle lived up to its rainy reputation. We hosted small dinner parties where I would cook elaborate meals while Mia charmed our guests. I thought we were building something lasting. Mia was vibrant and passionate about everything she did. At work, she quickly climbed the corporate ladder, earning a reputation for creative marketing strategies and tireless dedication. She approached our relationship with the same intensity, planning surprise dates and leaving sweet notes in my lunch. But that same passion extended to her friendships, particularly with her college squad. The squad consisted of 5 women who had been in the same sorority as Mia during college. They had remained unusually close over the years, with a bond that sometimes seemed more like codependence than friendship. There was Jessica, the dramatic one, who always had some crisis, requiring immediate attention from everyone. Amanda was the organized planner who scheduled their gatherings with military precision. Taylor brought the party energy, constantly pushing for nights out clubbing or bar hopping. Zoe was the judgmental one, always ready, with a cutting remark disguised as concern. Lindsay was the only one I genuinely liked, as she treated me with respect and seemed to understand boundaries. At first, I tried to embrace these women as part of Mia's life. I attended their brunches, joined their game nights, and even suffered through several karaoke sessions despite my terrible singing voice. But no matter how hard I tried, I always felt like an outsider. They had inside jokes stretching back years, referenced people I had never met, and occasionally lapsed into sorority lingo that might as well have been a foreign language. Over time, I noticed a troubling pattern emerging. Mia would cancel our plans whenever one of the squad members called with an emergency. These emergencies ranged from legitimate concerns like Taylor getting stranded with a flat tire to absurd situations like Jessica needing emotional support after a bad haircut. I tried to be understanding, but it became increasingly difficult as these incidents multiplied. The balance in our relationship began to shift subtly. Mia started spending more evenings with her friends than with me. Our weekend hikes became less frequent, replaced by shopping trips with Amanda or brunches with the entire squad. When I expressed concern about this change, Mia accused me of being controlling and insecure. Things grew more concerning when Mia began to be secretive about her phone. She would turn away when texting or abruptly end calls when I entered the room. Once I glimpsed a message from Zoe asking if Mia had told me about something yet, but when I asked what it was about, Mia dismissed it as nothing important. Despite these warning signs, I remained committed to making our relationship work. I believe that every couple faces challenges, and with communication and compromise, we could overcome these issues. I had no idea how wrong I was, or how soon everything would fall apart. Our third anniversary should have been a celebration of our love and commitment. I had spent weeks planning the perfect evening, making reservations at Canlis, one of the most exclusive restaurants in Seattle. The kind of place where you need to book months in advance and save up for even longer. I had also purchased a custom-designed promise ring, not quite an engagement ring, but a symbol of my intention to propose in the near future. The day started perfectly. I woke up early and brought Mia breakfast in bed, watching her face light up at the sight of blueberry pancakes, her favorite. We exchanged cards, and I felt a surge of hope when I read her words about looking forward to many more years together. I mentioned that I had special plans for the evening, but kept the details secret, wanting to surprise her. While Mia was at work, I prepared a pre-dinner surprise at home. I cleaned the apartment, thoroughly arranged dozens of candles throughout the living room, and scattered rose petals from the door to the dining table. I set out champagne to chill and prepared a small charcuterie board to enjoy before our reservation. Everything was perfect, down to the carefully selected playlist of songs that had marked important moments in our relationship. At 4:30 p.m., just as I was putting the finishing touches on our apartment, my phone rang. Seeing Mia's name on the screen, I answered eagerly, expecting her to say she was on her way home. Instead, her voice was tight with tension as she explained that something had come up. Jessica just broke up with Brian, she said, referring to her friend's boyfriend of barely 3 months. She is absolutely devastated and needs us right now. Us, I asked, a sinking feeling in my stomach. Mia, tonight is our anniversary. I have reservations at Canlis in 2 hours. I know what day it is, she replied, her voice taking on a defensive edge. But Jessica really needs the support of her friends right now. You understand, right? We can celebrate this weekend instead. We have been planning this for weeks, I said, struggling to keep my voice even. Jessica has the rest of the squad to support her. This is one night that should be about us. The conversation quickly deteriorated from there. Mia accused me of being selfish and uncaring toward her friends. I pointed out the pattern of her canceling our plans for increasingly trivial friend emergencies. Voices were raised, old grievances resurfaced, and the argument spiraled out of control. These women have been my friends since college, Mia said. They have been there for me through everything. And what about me, I asked. Have I not been there for you for the past 3 years? Do our plans always have to come second to your friends? You just do not understand the bond we share, she replied. Some things are more important than dinner reservations. Like what? Like Jessica's 3rd breakup this year. How is that more important than celebrating 3 years together? There was a pause, and when Mia spoke again, her voice was cold and deliberate. Love can wait, but friendship cannot. They will be here after you. The words hit me like a physical blow. In that moment, everything became crystal clear. I was not her priority. I might never be her priority. All this time, I had been building a future with someone who saw me as temporary, while her friends were permanent. I see, I said quietly. Thank you for finally being honest with me. I hung up before she could respond and stared at the romantic setting I had created. The candles, the rose petals, the champagne all seemed suddenly pathetic. I blew out the candles, swept up the petals, and put away the champagne. Then I went to the bedroom and pulled out my suitcase. I packed, methodically taking only what I absolutely needed. Clothes, toiletries, laptop, and a few personal items. I left behind anything we had purchased together or that reminded me too strongly of Mia. I called the restaurant and canceled our reservation, grateful that they were understanding when I explained the situation. Just as I was finishing, I heard keys in the lock. Mia walked in looking surprised to find me with a suitcase. Perhaps she expected me to be sulking but ultimately accepting of her choice as I had been so many times before. "What are you doing?" she asked, eyeing the suitcase. "Taking your advice," I replied calmly. "If I am just temporary in your life, I should not waste any more of my time." "That is not what I meant," she protested. "You are twisting my words. Love can wait, but friendship cannot. They will be here after you." I repeated her exact words. "I think your meaning was quite clear." "Where are you going?" she asked, her voice rising in panic as she realized I was serious. "That is no longer your concern," I told her. I took out my phone and called an Uber. Mia switched tactics, tears filling her eyes as she apologized and promised to make it up to me, but something had broken inside me, something that could not be fixed with tears or promises. I stood silently by the door waiting for my ride notification. When it came, I picked up my suitcase and walked past Mia without another word. As the door closed behind me, I felt a strange mixture of pain and liberation. The relationship I had invested 3 years in was over, but perhaps something new could begin. I stayed at a hotel that night and spent the next day securing a short-term rental apartment across town. It was small and sparsely furnished, but it was mine alone, a space to begin healing. I turned off my phone, unable to deal with the barrage of calls and messages from Mia. After a week of emotional processing, I finally turned my phone back on. There were dozens of missed calls and messages from Mia, ranging from angry to pleading. I read through them but did not respond. I needed time and space to think clearly. I met up with my friend Jake, who had introduced me to Mia years ago. Over beers, he reluctantly shared something that confirmed my decision to leave. "I did not want to be the one to tell you this," he said, "but Zoe and Amanda have been saying some pretty nasty things about you to anyone who will listen. About how you are controlling and trying to separate Mia from her friends. They even had a nickname for you, the Anchor, because they thought you were dragging Mia down." The revelation stung, but it also strengthened my resolve. While browsing social media that evening, I discovered something that made my blood boil. Jessica's supposed emergency breakup had actually been a planned birthday celebration. There were photos of the entire squad, including Mia, at a club downtown, birthday hats, and all time-stamped during our anniversary dinner. The betrayal cut deep, but it also provided clarity. I realized that I had been making excuses for Mia's behavior for far too long. It was time to focus on my own well-being and growth. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into rebuilding my life. I rediscovered old hobbies that had fallen by the wayside during my relationship. I started rock climbing again, joining a local gym where I made new friends who shared my passion for the outdoors. I reconnected with college buddies I had lost touch with, finding comfort in these uncomplicated friendships. I focused on improving my temporary living situation, buying plants and artwork to make the space feel more like home. I established new routines, joining a morning running group and cooking elaborate meals for myself instead of settling for takeout. I even adopted a cat from the local shelter, a grumpy orange tabby who was not big on affection but provided silent companionship during long evenings. At work, I channeled my emotional energy into productivity, taking on challenging projects that required intense focus and problem solving. My boss noticed the change and hinted at a potential promotion if I maintained this level of performance. Slowly, painfully, I was building a new life for myself. A life where I was not an afterthought or a backup plan. A life where my needs mattered. I was not completely healed, not by a long shot, but I was on my way. The doorbell rang early on a Saturday morning, about 3 weeks after I had left. I was not expecting anyone, especially not at 8:30 a.m. Curious and slightly annoyed at the interruption to my peaceful morning, I opened the door without checking the peephole, a decision I immediately regretted. Mia stood on my doorstep, but she was not alone. Behind her stood her entire squad: Jessica, Amanda, Taylor, Zoe, and Lindsay, looking like a sorority intervention team. Mia's eyes were red-rimmed, suggesting she had been crying, but her expression was determined. "We need to talk," she said, attempting to step inside without waiting for an invitation. I blocked the doorway, stunned by the audacity of showing up unannounced with her entire friend group. "How did you find my address?" "Lindsay works in real estate," she explained impatiently. "That is not important right now. What is important is that we fix this misunderstanding." "There is no misunderstanding," I replied calmly. "You made your priorities clear, and I made my decision based on that." "You are overreacting," Zoe chimed in from behind Mia, her tone dripping with condescension. "Relationships require compromise." "I have been the only one compromising for 3 years," I said, feeling a flash of anger, but keeping my voice steady. Now is not a good time for this conversation, and I certainly did not invite an audience. "We are here to support Mia," Amanda explained, consulting her phone as if checking a schedule, "and to help you two work through this. I was thinking you could move back in by next weekend. I have created a shared calendar for couples therapy appointments." I almost laughed at the absurdity of the situation. I am not moving back, and I did not agree to therapy, especially not with an audience of critics. Jessica pushed forward. "Look, I know my breakup might seem trivial to you, but it was a real emergency. Brian and I had been having problems for weeks, and when he finally ended things, I was devastated. Mia was just being a good friend." "A good friend to you, perhaps," I replied, "but not a good partner to me. And by the way, I saw the birthday party photos from that night." Jessica had the grace to look embarrassed, but Zoe jumped in. "So what friends celebrate birthdays? You are just too sensitive." I noticed Lindsay hanging back from the group, looking uncomfortable. When our eyes met, she mouthed, "I am sorry about this," confirming my suspicion that she had not been fully on board with this ambush. "You are ruining our group dynamic," Taylor complained. "Mia has been miserable for weeks, and now all our outings are affected. She just cries into her cocktails and checks her phone every 5 minutes. That is not my problem anymore," I said. "Mia made her choice." Mia stepped closer, her voice softening as she adopted a pleading tone. "I miss you. I know I said some things I should not have, but I was stressed about Jessica's situation. You know how much you mean to me. We have 3 years of memories together." "Are you really going to throw that all away over one comment?" I had anticipated this moment during my weeks alone, rehearsing what I would say if Mia tried to reconcile. Now facing her and her squad, the words came easily. "It was not one comment," I said firmly. "It was a pattern of behavior. Every time I expressed concern about being your last priority, you dismissed my feelings. Every time I asked for more balance in our relationship, you accused me of being controlling. You consistently chose your friends over me, even on our anniversary. Your comment just confirmed what I had suspected for months, that I am expendable in your life." "That is not true," Mia protested. "You are twisting everything." "Am I?" I asked. "What exactly did you tell your friends about why I left?" Amanda answered before Mia could. She said you were being unreasonable about her helping a friend in crisis. That you gave her an ultimatum, them or you. "That is not what happened," I said, looking directly at Mia. "Tell them what you really said to me. Tell them about the anniversary plans I made weeks in advance. Tell them about the reservation at Canlis, the candles, the promise ring. Tell them your exact words." Mia's face flushed. "I do not remember exactly what I said. It was in the heat of the moment." "I remember perfectly," I replied. "You said, 'Love can wait, but friendship cannot. They will be here after you.' You made it clear that I was temporary, and they were permanent. You decided I was disposable." The squad's reactions varied. Jessica and Amanda exchanged uncomfortable glances. Taylor looked at her shoes. Zoe maintained her judgmental stare. Lindsay shook her head in disappointment, though whether at Mia or the situation was unclear. "Is that true?" Lindsay finally spoke up. "Did you really say that, Mia?" "You do not understand," Mia said defensively. "He is making it sound worse than it was." "How exactly should I have interpreted it?" I asked. "Please enlighten me." "I just meant that my friends needed me in that moment," Mia said weakly. "And I needed you too," I replied. "It was our anniversary, but you have consistently shown me where I rank in your priorities, and it is not at the top, not even close. I deserve better than to be someone's backup plan." "We have all been dealing with Mia's crying and moping for weeks," Zoe snapped. "Just forgive her already, so things can go back to normal." "Your friend group dynamics are not my concern," I said. "And honestly, they have never been healthy. You all enable each other's worst behaviors and punish anyone who tries to establish boundaries." "That is not fair," Jessica exclaimed. "We support each other." "You support each other in avoiding adult responsibilities and relationships," I countered. "How many times has each of you canceled plans with partners or family to respond to some squad emergency that turned out to be trivial? How often do you undermine each other's relationships instead of encouraging them to grow?" Lindsay nodded slowly. "He has a point. We do tend to drop everything whenever one of us calls, even when it is not truly urgent." "Whose side are you on?" Zoe demanded, glaring at Lindsay. "I am just saying maybe we have been unfair to him," Lindsay replied. "And to Mia too, expecting her to always prioritize us." An argument broke out among the squad members. Amanda insisted they were just being supportive friends. Jessica defended her need for emotional support during breakups. Taylor complained that everyone was being too serious. Zoe accused Lindsay of betrayal. As they bickered, Mia's facade of remorse cracked. Her expression hardened, and when she spoke, her voice had lost its pleading tone. "This is exactly why I need my friends," she said bitterly. "They understand me in ways you never did. They do not judge me or make me feel guilty for being there when they need me. You were always trying to change me to pull me away from them. I never tried to change you," I replied calmly. "I only asked for equal consideration, for my needs to matter as much as theirs, for our relationship to be a priority at least some of the time." "Well, maybe your needs were too demanding," she snapped. "Maybe I got tired of your constant complaints about my friends." And there it was, the truth finally revealed. Not in her carefully rehearsed apology or in front of her supportive squad, but in a moment of frustration when her real feelings slipped out. "Thank you for your honesty," I said quietly. "Now, I would appreciate it if all of you would leave my apartment." "But we have not resolved anything," Amanda protested, looking at her phone as if she had scheduled a resolution for this exact time slot. "I think we have resolved everything that needs resolving," I replied. "Goodbye, Mia. I wish you well, but this conversation is over." As I began to close the door, Mia tried one last desperate tactic. "If you shut this door, we are done forever," she threatened. "I will not come back again." "I know," I said. "That is the point." I shut the door firmly on their protests and leaned against it, heart pounding but mind surprisingly clear. Through the door I could hear the muffled sounds of their continued argument as they made their way down the hall. But for the first time in weeks, their drama felt distant. No longer my problem to solve or endure. I had stood my ground. I had spoken my truth. And in doing so, I had finally freed myself from a relationship that had been slowly draining my self-respect. The relief was overwhelming, and despite the lingering sadness, I felt lighter than I had in months. In the days following the confrontation, I experienced a strange mix of emotions. There was the liberation of having finally stood my ground, but also the lingering sadness of losing someone I had loved for 3 years. Grief does not disappear instantly, even when you know a relationship was unhealthy. There were moments when I questioned my decision, wondering if I had been too harsh or unwilling to compromise. But those moments became less frequent as time passed. 2 days after the doorstep showdown, I received a text from Lindsay. "I wanted to apologize for being part of that ambush," she wrote. "It was wrong, and I should have said something beforehand. For what it is worth, I think you made the right decision. The group dynamic has never been as healthy as it should be." Her message validated my feelings and helped solidify my resolve. Lindsay had been part of the squad for years, but could still recognize the toxic patterns. If she could see it, I was not imagining things. Mia continued her attempts to reconcile over the following weeks. There were tearful voicemails, lengthy emails explaining how much she had changed, even a delivery of my favorite cookies to my workplace. Each attempt was more difficult to resist than the last, playing on my memories of the good times and my natural inclination toward forgiveness. But each time I reminded myself of her words and actions of the pattern that would inevitably repeat if I returned. Instead of responding to Mia's messages, I focused on rebuilding my life. I maintained the new habits I had established, expanding my social circle beyond the bubble of our relationship. I reconnected with college friends I had lost touch with, finding that many of them had experienced similar relationship challenges. Their understanding and support proved invaluable during the difficult days. My renewed focus at work paid off with a promotion to senior developer, bringing increased responsibility and a welcome salary bump. The additional income allowed me to move from my temporary rental to a more permanent apartment, one that I furnished entirely to my own taste without compromising for someone else's preferences. I also invested time in my physical health, joining a rock climbing gym and signing up for weekend hiking groups. The physical exertion helped channel my emotional energy, and the sense of accomplishment from mastering difficult routes rebuilt my confidence. Through these activities, I made new friends who shared my interests and respected my boundaries. 6 months after our breakup, I ran into Lindsay at a coffee shop near my office. She waved me over to her table, and we spent an hour catching up. She had distanced herself from the squad, focusing more on her real estate career and her relationship with her new boyfriend. "The group kind of fractured after that day at your apartment," she explained. "Taylor and I realized we were tired of the constant drama and stepped back. Amanda and Jessica are still tight, with Mia and Zoe floats between friend groups depending on where she can stir up the most trouble. And Mia?" I asked, surprised to find I could say her name without a stab of pain. "Still the same pattern," Lindsay said with a sad smile. "She has a new boyfriend, nice guy who works in finance. But she still drops everything when Amanda or Jessica calls with a crisis. Last week she missed his family dinner because Amanda needed help putting together furniture from IKEA. Not exactly an emergency." Her words confirmed what I had suspected. Mia had not changed and likely never would. The problem had not been me or my expectations, but her inability to create healthy boundaries and priorities. As I reflected on our relationship in the months that followed, I began to recognize the red flags I had ignored. The way she would dismiss my concerns with accusations of insecurity, the subtle put-downs from her friends that she never defended me from, the constant rescheduling of our plans to accommodate her friends' needs. These were not isolated incidents, but patterns that revealed her true priorities. I also gained a deeper understanding of what a balanced partnership should look like. It was not about never spending time with friends or expecting to be someone's entire world. It was about mutual respect, consideration, and the knowledge that when it truly matters, you are each other's first priority. It was about supporting each other's friendships and interests while maintaining the relationship as the primary commitment. About 9 months after the breakup, I cautiously began dating again. Nothing serious at first, just coffee or dinner with women I met through friends or dating apps. I took things slowly, making sure to establish my boundaries and expectations early on. Some connections faded quickly, but others showed promise, and I found myself open to the possibility of falling in love again, wiser from my experience with Mia. What I learned from those 3 years, and their painful ending, was invaluable. I learned the importance of self-respect and the courage to walk away from situations where you are undervalued. I learned that love requires more than just affection. It requires consistent actions that demonstrate true commitment. And perhaps most importantly, I learned that sometimes losing someone reveals your own worth rather than diminishing it. While romantic love is a beautiful part of life, It should never come at the expense of your dignity or self-worth. A true partner will make you a priority, not an option or an afterthought. They will consider your needs as important as their own, and certainly as important as their friends' needs. Today, I am building a life where I value myself enough to expect reciprocity and respect, where I recognize that healthy love enhances your life without requiring the sacrifice of your identity or boundaries, where I understand that the right person will not make you compete for your place in their life. They will make space for you as naturally as breathing. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved because they did not prioritize you? What helped you find the strength to put yourself first? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories of growth and self-discovery. Remember, you deserve to be more than an afterthought in someone's life. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the courage to demand the love and respect you deserve.